Hello, boys and girls. Mr. Palast here. So nice to see you. Got my Abercrombie and Finch shirt on today. Feeling good. Haircut still holding up. All right. I have a great story for today. Today is definitely a story. It's a thinking man story. And what that means is I really need you guys to be like Private Iguana today. Okay? This is a story about lots of clues and putting them together. So, thinking caps on, and ready to roll, okay, guys? This is called the Lost Camel. There were once some merchants from across the ocean who traveled from place to place, selling their wares. Late one evening, as they made their way up the river, they lost one of their camels. They discovered he'd been missing when he stopped to make camp that night. Early the next morning, they set out to look for him. They met a man coming along the road. They stopped and asked him if he had seen a camel. The man told them he had not seen the camel, but he was sure he could tell them where the camel was to be found. The merchants were puzzled by this, and they began to question the man. "Was the camel carrying a load?" they asked.
"Yes," the man answered. "He was carrying a bag of wheat on his left side and a large jar of honey on his right side. Furthermore, the camel is blind in one eye, and he has a missing tooth. But like I said, I hadn't seen him. I can only tell you where you can find him."
"But you've given a perfect description of our lost camel," the surprised merchant exclaimed. You probably have hidden our camel and intend to steal him."
"I haven't seen him, and I'm not a thief," the man retorted. "But I have lived in this land a long time, and there are some things I know."
"Then tell us, how do you know he was carrying wheat and honey?" the merchant asked suspiciously.
"I know he was carrying wheat on his left side because grains had fallen along the left side of the path. The bag was probably cut by some branches. Ants were gathering the grains on the left side of the trail. I know he was carrying jars of honey because on the right side of the path, flies were swarming where the honey had dripped."
"Fine, but how do you know he was blind in one eye?" the merchant exclaimed. This is definitely a thinking man story. Lots of clues. What do you guys think so far? You think the man stole the camel? I think he's just really smart. We're going to find out.
"Because I noticed he had been grazing on the right side of the path," the man answered.
"And how do you know he has a tooth missing?"
"Because where he had chewed the grass, he left a clump in the middle of the bite. That told me he had a missing tooth."
"If the directions you give us are correct," the merchant said, "then we will reward you for the good news you have given us." And so they went off to look for the camel, and they found him near the place where the man had said he had seen the signs. They were very pleased to find their lost camel, and they rewarded the man who had been so clever. Wow. Talk about putting clues together, right, guys? All right, question number 1. Why do the merchants think that the man they met on the road is a thief? So why do they think he's a thief? A, the man knows that a camel is missing from their camp. B, the man is carrying a bag of wheat and a jar of honey. C, the man tells them where to find the camel. D, the man gives them a perfect description of the camel. So why do the merchants think the man they meet on the road is a thief? This is a tricky one, but I want you guys to think about the best answer choice. What do you think it is? It is answer D, the man gives them a perfect description of the camel, because Throughout the story, they keep questioning him and thinking, well, how do you know so much? And he's giving a description that he's blind in one eye, he's missing a tooth, the things that he was carrying. So it is D. This is a tricky one. Number 2, how does the man know the camel is blind in one eye? A, the camel became lost in the dark night. B, the camel grazes on only one side of the path. C, the camel follows a path of ants back to the camp. D, the camel is not too far from the camp. So how does the man know the camel is blind in one eye? Now, if you know it, you can tell me A, B, C, or D. For this one, I have an idea, but I want to go back into the text, okay? So especially if you're uncertain or even just to justify your answers, you want to go back into the text and prove it. Prove it to yourself. Prove it to the people scoring this test why the answer is what it is. So how does he know the camel is blind in one eye? All right, let's see. Fine. I'm on paragraph 9. Fine, but how do you know he is blind in one eye? The merchants asked. Let's see what his response is. Because I noticed he had been grazing only on the right side of the path, the man answered. So, the answer is 2 is B. The camel grazes on only one side of the path. Now, if you remember that, awesome. Give yourself a pat in the back. I thought it was B as well, but still, you want to confirm your answers. As I said, these tests are untimed. You have all day to do them. So, make sure that you're getting maximum points and getting them all right. All right. This one, you can't go back into the text. This is just thinking about character traits, and I think we can do this one. Which word best describes the man on the road? Okay. A, lonely. B, dishonest. C, excited. Or D, watchful. So how would you describe the man on the road? If you said D, watchful, you're correct. Yeah, he's very watchful. Like I said, he's like Private Iguana. He's looking at everything, putting all the clues together, and he found it out. All right, the next one is sequencing skills. So anytime you guys are sequencing, I want you to use the words first, next, then, afterwards, lastly. Okay? And sequencing is a great skill. It's a great way to organize your thoughts when you're telling your family or friends a story. It's a good way to organize your thoughts when you're taking a test. So it's used for multiple purposes. Recount the most important events in the story using your own words. Be sure to tell about the events in the order they happen. So you can go back into the text if you need to. And literally you're telling the events in order. So I would start off by saying first, the merchants lost their camel. Then I would say next, they met a man along the road. So we got first, next. Then the man started telling them about their camel. Afterwards, he explained how he found out those clues. Lastly, the man told the merchants where they could find their camel. Okay? So you can go back to the story and look for those events and just use those words first, next, then, afterwards, lastly. Okay? Also, when you're writing it down, make sure you have a comma after each sequencing word. So if you have first, comma. Okay? So first, the merchants lost their camel. Comma. Okay. And the last one for today. What is the central message of the story? Use key details from the story to support your answer. Write your answer in complete sentences. Now, the central message. What do you think this story is about? Okay, the main idea or central message. They use it all the time. What do you think the central message is? So I would say, yeah, just like what you were thinking. To put clues together, to be a detective like Private Iguana, which we talk about all the time, and that will help you find your camel. Now, it says we need to find a detail from the story to support that. So, we can literally choose anything the man has said because we said, putting clues together. So we can choose that top one. Because I noticed he had been grazing only on the right side of the path, the man answered. So I'd write that sentence and I'd say the central message is to really pay attention to clues. Okay? All right, guys. I hope you enjoy this. I had a great time with this story. And I'm looking forward to more, okay? But always be like Private Iguana. Be a great detective. Look for those clues. Bye, boys and girls.